I'm going to make you a bold promise. By the end of this episode, you are going to see that the belief keeping you stuck may not be wisdom, discernment, humility, responsibility, or even realism. It may simply be an old mental ceiling. And once you see that ceiling, you can stop calling it your personality. You can stop calling it your limitation. You can stop calling it, it's just the way I am. Because a limiting belief is not just a thought you have. A limiting belief is a thought you have obeyed long enough that it started to feel like identity. That is where we are going today. We're going to be talking about getting past limiting beliefs, using your mind differently, and becoming more creative and learning how to move into the next version of your life without dragging your old mental operating system with you. I want to frame this through something I heard in a diary of the CEO because it was just pure gold. Understand what he was really saying. They were talking about AI, robotics, disruption, business, opportunity, and the future. But underneath it all, I heard something much deeper. I heard a conversation about the human mind. I heard a conversation about how people either freeze when the world changes or they become creative. And when the world changes, they adapt. And this distinction matters because some people look at disruption and say, I'm in trouble. Other people, though, look at disruption and say, there's a new door here. Same world, same facts, different mind. That is why it matters. One of the ideas from the clip was Jason's paradox. And that's basically when something becomes easier, cheaper, or more efficient, demand doesn't always disappear. Sometimes demand explodes. And that's what matters because a limiting belief usually says, if something changes, I lose. A renewed mind says, if something changes, I need to look at it again. That difference between fear and discernment is important. Fear makes the conclusion too quickly. Discernment keeps asking better questions. Fear says, it's all over. Discernment says, what is actually happening here? Fear says, I cannot do that. Discernment says, what do I need to learn here? Fear says, I can't succeed in spaces like that. Discernment says, is that really true? We need to reveal, reset, renew, restore, and apply that framework, even here, even in AI, right? All parts of our lives. We need to challenge the beliefs running behind these. Reveal. This is where we stop performing and start paying attention. What do you automatically assume that is possible for you? What do you dismiss before you even give it a shot? Where do you say, I'm not creative? I'm too late. I don't have the resources. I don't have the personality. I don't understand technology. I could never do that. I could never learn that. I don't want to start over. Those statements may sound like facts in your head. Many of them are just rehearsed limitations. And here's the hard question for you and for me. Who benefits from us staying underneath those broken beliefs? Somebody, it's just based on fear. It's an old version of you. And that's what keeps us stuck. It's just safer. It's uncomfortable. We need to be honest. If you say, I cannot, you're just risking being seen. If you say, that's not for me, you don't have to learn. And if you say, I'm not creative, then you don't have to produce anything that could be judged. I'm too old to become a beginner? Never. I'm not good with technology. Then you don't have to sit with the discomfort of figuring it out. This is where we have to be careful. These limited beliefs often disguise themselves as maturity. Sometimes what we're calling wisdom is actually self-protection. Sometimes what we are calling humility is really fear of visibility. Sometimes what we're calling contentment is really resignation. And sometimes what we are calling waiting on God is actually avoiding responsibility to take the next obedient step. Trust me, I know. That's the reveal stage. You cannot renew what you refuse to recognize. Then we move into reset, okay? Reset means we have to interrupt old patterns. In that clip, there's a powerful idea that when the cost of creation drops, more people can build. Not just massive companies, not just huge teams, not just people with giant budgets. More people, it doesn't mean better. It means more creative thinking, using AI, finding your business niche, seeing a problem and saying, maybe there's a way to solve that. And again, it's not just to hear it in just a business realm. Hear it as a spiritual and mental challenge as well. What if the barrier is never as big in your mind as you've made it? What if the door is not actually closed? You just are looking at an outdated map. What if you're praying for more opportunity while still ignoring the tools already in your hands? What if your limiting beliefs start to break off? Then you'd have to really look at yourself. Look at the evidence. Stop saying, I don't do this because I don't have what I need. Start asking yourself, what is required now? That question is powerful. What's required now? Not 10 years ago, not when you were in survival mode, not when you were in a different position of life, not when you failed before. Right now. What's required right now? You don't need a huge platform to start. You don't need to be a techie to use AI. You don't need to be perfect or take the right course or have the right backing. You don't need to take more workshops. You don't need a full production team. You don't need a huge business platform. You just need the courage to be consistent. Maybe you don't need to become someone else. Maybe you just need to stop hiding from who you are, who God formed you as. Reset means stop letting yesterday define the size of your tomorrow. And then we get to renew. Renew is not just thinking positive. Renewing the mind is training the mind to agree with truth, not fear. This is where creativity comes in. A stuck mind is usually binary. It only sees two options: stay or quit, succeed or fail, perfection or pointless, all or nothing, safe or reckless. But a creative mind sees many more paths. Creative mind says, what else could this become? A creative mind says, what is another way? A creative mind says, what small experiment could I run? That's another powerful idea from the video. Validation. Instead of falling in love with an idea better than anything else, test it. Validate it. Let reality speak. And that's not just an entrepreneurial advice piece. Staying stuck because we think everything has to move in one moment is not truth. We need to test things sometimes, then come to final decisions. Experiment. Be creative. Have a conversation. One email, one post, one class, one leap of faith, one invitation. Send one draft. One quiet act of obedience. Limiting beliefs love pressure. They want you to believe that the next move has to prove everything. But renewed thinking understands iteration. You don't need to marry every idea. You can test it. You can validate it first. You can learn from it, grow from it, and adjust, pivot. You can bring it before God. You can pray on it. You can seek wise counsel. You can look for fruit in the failings, right? This is where creative actions become spiritual formation, because creative actions are not just painting, writing, artwork. Creative actions are the possibility where fear says there is none. And this is where people feel like they're uncreative. They just feel like because they're not a creative person in art or music, that they have no imagination. And imagination feels dangerous to them. Maybe they've been disappointed before. Maybe they've been criticized before. Maybe they've tried it and it didn't work in the past. So now they call themselves practical, reasonable. Underneath practicality is often grief. Underneath I'm just being realistic is often I do not want to hope and get hurt again. And this is where the Lord has to heal us, because a renewed mind is not reckless. It's alive. It's daring. It can dream. It can imagine. It can build. It can try. It can repent. It can pivot. It can start again. And this brings us to restore. Restore is where we stop treating the goal as simply success and start asking, what kind of person are we becoming? This is important because that video also goes into our blind spots, boom and bust cycles, self-awareness, and the reality of success doesn't guarantee peace. Trust me, I know. Some people are just repeating cycles and not having the self-awareness to see what's really happening. And that hit me because that limiting belief is not always a small belief. Sometimes they're big, driven, impressive beliefs. Sometimes their limiting beliefs are not just that I cannot. Sometimes their limiting belief is I'm only valuable when I'm achieving or producing. Sometimes the limiting belief is if I slow down, I'm going to fall behind. Sometimes the limiting belief is if I'm not needed, I'm nothing. Sometimes the limiting belief is if this fails, I am a failure. Sometimes the limiting belief is if I'm not constantly producing, I'm wasting my life. That's still bondage. It may look more productive, but it's still bondage. I lived it. A restored life is just not just a bigger life, it's a freer life. It's a more truthful life. It's a more aligned life. It's a life where your mind is not dragging around fear, comparison, urgency, pride, insecurity, and old wounds. And this is where we have to get really honest. Use your mind to create freedom. You can use your mind to build a more sophisticated version of yourself, but get creative in your heart. It's not just proving. Look for opportunities to bless others. Use this opportunity to bless others, not just to outrun your emptiness. This is where identity matters. What can I build? Let's not do that. Who am I becoming? What is possible here? What is aligned? How can I use this technology or these opportunities around me to bless others? Where does faithfulness fall into this season? Because not every open door is an assignment, and not every closed door is a hard stop. Sometimes it's spiritual formation. It's a slow process that is wisdom. Sometimes it's just a little delay that's going to protect you, but learn from it and just recognize that fear is not the final word. So let's look at a practical exercise. Take one limiting belief and run it through this framework. Reveal. Name the belief. Write it down plainly. Not the polished version you want to share with other people, a real version. Something like I'm too late, or I'm not smart enough, or I always mess things up, or I'm too old for AI, or I'm not creative, or I don't know enough, or people are going to judge me, or I can't make money in a meaningful way. I have no time. I don't have the right personality. I missed my chance. Then reset. What evidence am I using to prove these beliefs? And then ask, is that evidence current, complete, and truthful? That matters because many beliefs are built on outdated evidence. Something happened when you were younger. Someone criticized you. You failed once or twice. You were overlooked. You were embarrassed. You were under-resourced. You were exhausted. Your brain just couldn't make it work. It could be from trauma. It could be just general disappointment. It could be from protecting yourself. It's just old programming. Then renew. Replace that belief with a truer thought that creates movement, not fake positivity, truth. Instead of I'm not creative, try creativity is a skill I can practice and live out. And instead of I'm too late, I'm in the right season now. Instead of I don't know enough, try I can learn the next required thing. There's so many resources. People are going to judge me. Obedience is more important than approval. Instead of I missed my chance. How about God is in charge of my timeline? Then restore. Take one action that proves that new belief has authority in your life. Not 10, one. Send the message. Write the outline. Record the episode. Write the book. Register for the class. Make the offer. Ask a question. Post the invitation. Create the draft. Pray an honest prayer. Have a conversation. Take a walk. Clean your space. Open the document. Because transformation doesn't become real until it becomes embodied and actionable. You don't think your way to a new life and then act some way later on. You think differently, then you practice differently. And practice is where the belief starts to lose its power, your old beliefs. This is where the mind matters so much. Your mind is not just a place where thoughts pass through. Your mind it has a stewardship space. It's where fear can become your forecast. It's where truth can become courage. It's where imagination can become obedience. It's where old patterns can be interrupted. It is where the future can start to open up for you. And this is how I want to say this clearly. You are not stuck because you lack creativity. You may be stuck because your mind keeps editing out the possibility before you even give yourself permission to breathe. You're not stuck because God has no more for you. You may be stuck because there's an old belief that's louder than the truth. You're not stuck because you are incapable. You may be stuck because you have not trained your mind to see what is now possible now. So today ask, what if I fail? No. Say, what if this beliefs are false that I've been believing my whole life? What's the next faithful step? Don't ask like, where can this go wrong all the time? See possibilities. How can I serve in this? Don't say, what if I'm not ready? Ask, what can I practice today? Because your fear shouldn't rule your future. Your future is built on the version of you willing to reveal the belief, reset the pattern, renew your mind, and restore the way you live. That's how limiting beliefs break. Not all at once, not magically, but honestly, faithfully, practically, one thought, one decision, one action, one obedient step at a time. So here's your closing question. What belief have you been treating like truth when it's only a ceiling? Name it, challenge it, renew it, then move. Because your mind is not stuck. Your creative being is not dead. Your future is not finished. And with God, old patterns do not get the final word. Bring it to God. Believe that all these changes going on in the world around you, especially related to AI technology, are not obstacles, they're opportunities. Challenge any limiting beliefs. Become a better version of you. It's not too late. There's more for you to do. And we'll talk more about this in future episodes. Thank you so much.